President Otto?
Aye.
Member Archuleta?
Stay.
Member Baxter?
Aye.
Member Zia?
Aye.
Those minutes are approved. September 11, 2014, that was a special meeting of the Board of Trustees. I'll entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Baxter, a second. Second on the,
Second.
second by Trustee Otto on this item. Any corrections, additions on the data there? If not, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
President Kellogg?
Aye.
Vice President Otto?
Aye.
Member Archuleta?
Stay.
Member Baxter?
Aye.
Member Zia?
Aye.
Motion carries. September 23rd.
Excuse me, Mr. President. I did not get the motion on the first set of minutes. Who made the motion?
Motion by Trustee Baxter, second by Trustee Otto.
Thank you.
September 23rd, this is our retreat that we had minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Archuleta,
Second.
second by Trustee Baxter. Question, comments on this item?
I have a comment.
Chair recognizes Trustee Zia.
I believe I sent my corrections for the trustee report, and I like it incorporated in the minutes, and it reads as follows. Member Zia welcomed Member Archuleta and acknowledged the great information contained in Evergreen College District's board dockets and to use it as an example to emulate LBCCD practices after. And since we don't have the video recording that will be posted, I request that this be made into the minutes.
And that is, you're attributing those to your comments,
Yes.
that you're welcoming Trustee Archuleta to the board?
The revision is at the last sentence, the last portion, that is using the Evergreen College District's board dockets as an example to emulate practices after.
I believe, excuse me, Trustee Zia, but I believe those comments would be attributed to the minutes of the board meeting of September 23rd, not the retreat.
My
There's two sets of
understanding was
minutes.
the minutes were all included in 923 as.
You have two sets of minutes here, a set of minutes for the retreat, which we need to take action on, and then a set of minutes for the board meeting.
Was the motion on the retreat or on the board
On the
meeting?
minutes for the retreat.
Motion is on the retreat right now.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
then I will repeat my comment again on the board meeting.
So, Madam Secretary, please call the roll for the minutes for the retreat.
President Kellogg?
Aye.
Vice President Otto?
Aye.
Member Archuleta?
Aye.
Member Baxter?
Aye.
Member Zia?
Excuse me, I'm not seeing the minutes that I have in my docket for board retreat. Am I missing it, or is it not in my docket?
It's just one single page back to back.
I don't have it. Well, that's fine. I mean, I don't. It's not in my docket.
Help you find it.
Yeah, it's fine. I'll vote yes.
Motion carries. Now, the September 23rd, the comments that was made by Trustee Zia, those are in there. And again, previously what we discussed, and again, I will just say it, and we'll just include this in the comments. The way our minutes are done, it's not what we say, it's what we did, and that's generally what we got into some problems with. But nonetheless, the motion, I do need a motion to approve the minutes. So I'll start with the motion. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of September 23rd, the regular meeting?
So moved.
Motion by Trustee Otto,
Second.
second by Trustee Baxter. Those comments will reflect the comments made by Trustee Zia on the motion. It was already there. Okay. All right, they will be included. All right. Correct. Madam Secretary, please call the roll on the minutes.
Excuse me. So we're voting on the revised minutes based on the comments that I provided.
She just made,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Madam Secretary, please call the
So
roll.
just to be clear, Board President Kellogg, because we've gone back and forth on this, you want us to include the comments that Trustee Zia made in the revised minutes?
Are they not?
No, they're not in the current minutes.
Are there any comments
Yes.
in this item?
It's actually the last page of the minutes.
She would like that entered on page 8, second paragraph, with her paragraph that says Member Zia talked about. She would like the statement that she just read about Irma Archuleta and Evergreen College, so.
All right, again, what I'm just going to caution everybody, and this is what we've gone back and forth on, and I'm fine to move, let's move on, because these are minutes. But again, the way we do minutes here at the college, it's not based on what we said. It's not a verbatim type of policy. It is the actions we take. And I know we got off of that a little bit, and we kept demanding our board secretary to add language, but that is not what we're trying to not do that, but there's comments there already, so we make these changes unless everyone wants to get into a floor fight about the comments.
Excuse me, President Kellogg. I believe the secretary did mention that this section is verbatim. So that's just the point of information. In her email to us, she did mention that the section on the trustee reports is verbatim. I can read the email.
Well, again, this is where, so just to move this forward, because I don't like to be stumbling on wordsmithing here, but again, our policy is our minutes are not traditionally done in a verbatim manner. The reason why we've gotten this is because we have put this onto our board secretary of demanding certain language in there, that I said something, that you said something. We got away from this decades ago when we had somebody actually transcribe all our comments into a form that we could read, because with the board now being broadcast, we don't do that now. But for this, unless my colleagues, but I want to try to wean us off of this, and we keep coming back and saying, well, we did it here and there, and I'm getting a conflict on what we had. I really don't, on the overall world, it doesn't matter to me whether you said something nice, but unless my colleagues are worried about it. But again, just cautioning all of you that our policy, what we are doing here is not to be having minutes that are verbatim of what we actually said. So that's what we're trying to get away from. That's what really our policy, and we've really we have in the past few meetings. This has been an issue, but I don't want to get stumbled up on something like this.
President Kellogg, if I happen to agree with Trustee Zia on the personal, under the trustee report. I agree with you that I don't think we need all the language in all the other parts, but I think it's important to have what we say directly in the minutes. And people have a right to disagree with me.
Yeah, no, and there's a fine line, because it's going to be, well, I said something that I think is really important. So, but anyway, it's fine unless my colleagues, but so the answer to your question is yes, we'll incorporate these.
So,
in there.
if I may ask a question, is the original motion to approve the minutes as they are? And I think that's been, first and second. And if we're going to include the revisions, then now we need to make another motion to revise, to accept the revisions.
It can be a friendly amendment, or it can be just a revision. I can ask the maker of the motion in a second if they're agreeable to having these additions put on there. And so I look now, the makers of the motion, the second, are fine with it, and we don't have to do it. It's essentially a friendly amendment to it, and we're fine.
I move then we accept the amendment.
The comments. Yeah. All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on the minutes.
President Kellogg?
Aye.
Vice President Otto?
Aye.
Member Archuleta?
Aye.
Member Baxter?
Aye.
Member Zia?
Aye.
All right, the approval of the minutes are completed. We're now at the public hearing. This is on board appointment to the Personnel Commission. As many of you realize, at our last meeting, we actually had this item on there. So I'm going to read at the board meeting of September 23rd, 2014, the board announced its intent to appoint Richard F. Gaylord to the District Personnel Commission. Educational Code Section 88066 provides that after 30 days, but within 45 days, after the announcements, the board shall provide the public employees and employee organizations an opportunity to express their views on the qualifications of the person recommended. This is the time set aside for such a hearing. So, at this time, Madam Secretary, does anyone need to take a speaker's card out?
No. If there's any public.
Is there anyone in the audience wish to comment at this time?
President Kellogg, I just want to notify the audience that I have to go to an event at Lakewood, which is part of my district. I intend to come back in 20 minutes, and so excuse me for having to leave.
So I think the appropriate thing to say is, if there's anyone here who objects to the appointment of Richard Gaylord to the Personnel Board. He must come forward now or forever hold his peace. And I must say that Dick has given such great service to this college for many, many years on the Personnel Commission, serving as chair many times, and he's been active in other things at the college. We are grateful for all the service and honored to ask you to continue to serve.
It can be positive too, but this is a time set aside for the public to express its views on the board appointment to the Personnel Commission. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to make a comment? Let the record show there is none. So I now declare this public hearing closed. We are actually going to come back. This will be item 1.1 in our agenda. So I'll now move to the ordering of the agenda. I have not heard any changes to the agenda except what we did do with our student trustee. Everything else on our agenda will remain the same. So at this point, we have the next item is public comments on agenda items. We have no speaker cards, or at least none have been given to me on agenda items, correct, Madam Secretary?
That's correct. There are.
All right, we'll now move to board trustees. Item 1.1, board appointment to the Personnel Commission. Let me read this. That the Board of Trustees designate Richard F. Gaylord as the board's appointment to the district's Personnel Commission for a 3-year term effective noon December 1st, 2014, and ending noon December 1st, 2017. This is in accordance with the Educational Code. The board announced its intent to appoint Richard F. Gaylord to the District Personnel Commission on September 23rd, 2014. Also in accordance with the aforementioned code section, a public hearing has been held, just did, to allow the public employees and employee organization to express their views on this appointment. Education Code further states that at this meeting, the board will make an appointment or a substitute appointment without further notification or public hearing. At this time, I'll entertain a motion from the members of the board.
So moved.
Second.
Sunny, I'm sorry. Motion by Trustee Zia, second by Trustee Otto. Comments, members of the board at this time? I would just echo what Trustee Otto, and I probably know Dick better than most people from decades ago, but outstanding work that he has done on behalf of this college and the important work the Personnel Commission does do. There are not many districts in the state of California that has a Personnel Commission. So if we do not have a Personnel Commission, all these areas that are dealt with by that commission and those 3 members would fall on this board. And so we appreciate it because I know how difficult it is and what work has to be done and the knowledge you have to have and the time you have to dedicate to it. So my personal thanks to Dick, both professionally but also as a family friend. With that, though, if there's no other comments, members of the board, Madam Secretary, please call the roll on the
President
appointment.
Kellogg,
Aye.
Vice President Otto,
Aye.
Member Archuleta,
Aye.
and Member Zia.
Aye.
Congratulations, Dick, and best of luck to you. Thank you. We're now to item 1.2, approval of board goals 2014-2016. Let me first entertain a motion to approve so we can have discussion on it. Motion by Trustee Archuleta, second.
No, I moved it. Zia, member Zia. I just said
Motion by Trustee Zia, second by Trustee Archuleta to approve the board goals. Discussion, members of the board at this time?
I have a question.
This is Trustee Zia.
Under the second bullet under item 1, well, it's more an observation, and given the events that have taken place in the course of the month of October about the partnership, expanding our partnership with the city, and the mayor's commitment for internship opportunities, I wanted to see if we can bake into this item internship opportunities and career pathway programs under our goals, and supporting our students in becoming career ready and working with community stakeholders to increase these partnerships and career opportunities.
Where is this?
Before, were you going to answer that, President Oakley? Before, and you caught me before I turned the page, let me just very quickly for members of the audience. At the board retreat on September 23rd, the Board of Trustees discussed either to roll over the existing goals or adopt revised or add new goals. And it was determined to continue to support the current goals with a revision with an additional goal for the 2014-2015 in support of success of the Long Beach Community College District and its students. That is reflected in here, and perhaps Trustee Otto or the President of the Academic Senate want to go into more detail. The reason behind that was these goals, if you look at them, our approach has been, because in the past we've actually had a retreat where there's been a large number of goals that were laid out, and it was recommended quite a while ago that there was too many. So what we did was try to make these simple. The fact also we have 3 new members, and to try to set those goals at our retreat. So it was all challenging. And so what we did, we took these main goals, and as Trustee Zia started to reflect, but I'm going to just read very quickly. The number 1, continue to support the student success agenda. And then number 2, continue to support the career technology, education, workforce development, and economic development agendas to strengthen the regional economy. 3, support programs to build a more collegial campus community by creating better relationships and communications among all campus stakeholders. That's the goal that I was referring to when I mentioned Trustee Otto and Academic Senate President Kane. And then the 4th one, allocate resources in a manner that is consistent with these board goals. So that said, now, I apologize, Trustee Zia, but I wanted to, so people knew what we were looking at. Other comments, questions by members of the board? Or clarification? Or did I do a great job?
No, well, I wanted to speak to...
Obviously not. Chair recognizes Trustee Otto.
Great, thanks. I wanted to talk about the 3rd goal, which is a new goal. And it came out of not only our board retreat, but out of the accreditation team report that the commendations and recommendations that we were given. I want to read from the recommendation. The first recommendation of 2 that the accreditation team said was that college employees across all levels have indicated that they do not feel heard or valued, particularly through the planning processes. In order to meet this standard, the team recommends that the college address the pervasive morale and communication problems. The college has acknowledged morale issues and a lack of communication as major areas of concern. These issues have led to a lack of transparency and trust. As a result of what the board talked about at its retreat, and then this information that came to us from the accreditation team, and as you know, the college has acknowledged this, we sat down and said, so what can we do to improve the situation? Karen Kane and I worked extensively, talked about this. She talked to me about what the faculty was doing and programs that they were involved with. We talked about the work of Ernest Boyer and his tenets about building campus community. And we agreed that we needed to put this in the board goals to communicate, and as a beginning to communicate with the whole Long Beach City College community, that these were important issues to us. And that's how the language for Goal 3 got adopted. It says, and I'll quote what Jeff said, but I'll quote the subparts as well. Support programs to build a more collegial campus community by creating better relationships and communications among all campus stakeholders by, first, supporting the leadership of, shouldn't have said that.
Should probably be support the establishment of a leadership development program.
Okay, towards the establishment of a leadership development program for Long Beach City College faculty and staff. Now, the idea behind that, and maybe you can speak to this too, Karen, because this was your idea, and I think a very good one, is that people need a better opportunity to not only know about what goes on at Long Beach City College, but to develop relationships among those that work here, either on the faculty or in the classified staff, and indeed with the trustees as well, and the administration. And if we have some kind of leadership academy or development program that can increasingly involve more people, we think that's a good step to the doing of that. And I think we should talk about that a little bit, and I'd invite Karen to weigh in on this because it was your idea.
Thank you, Doug. Based on the work of Ernest Boyer, who's well-known among community college student service type people, and his work has been documented for the last 30-plus years, and there's books showing how different colleges have implemented the work of Ernest Boyer. Trustee Otto and I talked about how could Long Beach City College incorporate some of this work to establish a better campus collegiate community, as everyone knows we need to do. So we talked quite a bit about it, and one of the ideas was, and I talked about this in my opening day remarks on College Day, is that we're all teachers here no matter what our job is. We are teachers, we're role models, people look to us, and we need to be proud of what it is we do at Long Beach City College, and we need to know each other, and we need to understand what the people up here do as to what people here do, and we need to have respect for the work that we're all doing, and how can we do that unless we get to know each other better. So one of the ideas that could come from this board goal is similar to a leadership program like Leadership Long Beach, for those of you that are familiar, where people from all walks of the campus life are grouped and go through in cohorts, similar to like what our new faculty are doing. And so you have the opportunity to get to know 40 to 60 people in your cohort from all areas of the campus and understand what they do and learn the college and learn what everyone's doing, learn some about our city and how we relate, learn some of our programs. So that's one of the ideas that could come from this particular board goal. And I want to say how encouraged I am that Doug Otto and our board is very, very committed and concerned and understand that this is the way that we need to go to really work on building our college and campus community. So thank you.
The second bullet point under this goal is expanding opportunities for interaction among the Board of Trustees and all campus stakeholders. Last year there were efforts made, and I think with some success, for people to address the morale issue. There was a committee that was established. It met several times. What I'm told by members of the faculty that I know was that the meetings were very helpful. And early on, for example, I think in the first meeting, President Oakley shared his background, and what I'm told, I wasn't at the meeting, I don't think there were any trustees at the meeting, but that members of the college community didn't know his background and were immediately felt better in knowing his background, what he'd done to get to the position that he was in, and they were off to a good start. We're trying to continue that idea. We're trying to get people to know the Board of Trustees better. I know a number of members of the faculty and met with them and had a beer with a couple of them from time to time. But for example, when I tell people that I was a teacher for 16 years at a law school in Los Angeles, they didn't know that. And it just reminded me, and everybody's got a story up here of how they're here and doing the work that it is that they're doing here. And so in the face of the board's discussions at its retreat and in the face of the accreditation report, we thought it was important to communicate to the campus community that one of the goals, and like Jeff said, we got woodshedded a few years ago when we looked at our 20 goals, and our consultant said, you got too many goals. People are not going to be able to evaluate you. Keep it simple. Have 3, maybe 4 at the most. But that this was an important enough thing to recognize in a board goal so that almost on a meeting-by-meeting basis, people in this community can say, so what are you doing to meet that goal? We know what student success is. We know what the career technical education and workforce development programs are. But educational institutions are unique in the way that they work. The moments that are the most special sometimes are very, very difficult to measure. It's that aha moment in a classroom when a student finally gets it, or a professor communicates something that transforms what's going on in that class. And we need to celebrate those moments. We need to be aware of them, and we need to all participate to make this the kind of place when those kinds of moments can occur. So that's why we thought it was important to specify a goal that had to do with building morale or achieving a more collegial campus community by creating better relationships and communications. President Oakley has already put some things in place to encourage this, but that's why we did it, and I'm going to assume that we're not going to strike this goal. I haven't heard anybody that wants to do that. But I want you to hold our feet to the fire to make sure that we work on this and move forward in making this a more collegial place. So that's how it got there. Those are the components of it, and I just wanted to share how we got there and what we intend to do.
All right, thank you. And so let me ask this. So the motion that was originally made, if there's no objection from the maker of the motion and the second of the motion, in item 3 of the board goals, the language on that, on the first bullet, will be support the establishment of a leadership development program for LBCC faculty and staff. Is that properly reflected?
Yes.
All right, very good. Then the motion will reflect that one. And
President Kellogg, did
other members of
you,
the board, Chair recognizes Trustee Zia.
I also had some changes about expanding on the second bullet for working with college and community stakeholders to implement and expand the Promise Pathway programs. I request that we add and internship opportunities and career pathways programs. So our students are career ready from the get-go, and we're responding to our great mayor's call to action to double the internships in the city and increase them.
So you're asking on the first bullet, which is continue to support the student success agenda.
Yeah,
On bullet
first
number
item.
2, you're asking to working with the college and community stakeholders to implement and expand the Promise Pathway programs. And I'm sorry, say again.
Internship opportunities and career pathway programs.
You know, I would just bring up this point technically. This goal says to continue to support the student success agenda. And I don't think that internships are, and believe me, I authored this idea for the mayor, the idea of internships. But is there another place to put it because it's not a student success initiative? Karen, do you have some thoughts? Sorry.
If you look at bullet number 3 under number 1, I think it addresses what Trustee Zia is saying in that it mentions LBUSD, CSULB, and the city of Long Beach. So that is all encompassing, I think.
I'm sorry, that's not,
That was, yes, that was the point of including the city of Long Beach in here because the College Promise includes all of the initiatives that Trustee Zia mentioned in addition to future initiatives that, you know, we will add from year to year to year. So, I mean, it's up to the board. You can be more detailed, but it was our position that everything that Trustee Zia just mentioned, including other initiatives that we're working on with the mayor, are encompassed in the Long Beach College Promise.
I'd like to add that detail. I request that we do so that the community and our students hold us to the fire, just like Trustee Otto mentioned for item number 3. And it's a measurable and tangible goal, and I would advocate that we just put 2 words in there, internship opportunities or career pathway programs.
Well, we do have career pathway programs. So, I mean, if we're going to add it, then we need to really rethink the language here, because we already have career pathway programs and
What about
actually
internship opportunities?
have internship opportunities, and we're actually working with the mayor to quantify what those intern opportunities look like. So, I mean, if it's the direction of the board that we add more detail, then we can do that, but we'd really have to go back. If you're going to measure it, it has to be measured against what the actual language was and the commitment we made in the College Promise, which we signed, and we can do that.